Now, the air cover that has been coming for the Prime Minister and his cause has been not very subtle in the past couple of weeks. In fact, in just one newspaper outlet alone, these are the types of cartoons which have been running against Peter Dutton. Remember, when all else fails, get Dutton, get Dutton, get Dutton. Now, of course, they move through everything to do with the Paris stuff, and then they just come right out and say, Aussie Trump. Remember how I've been talking about this for some time? The narrative, not the news. It doesn't matter what's actually going on. It's about trying to create anything but the existing power structure as a threat to democracy, extreme, too extreme, all of that stuff, right? These are the people who said that the Liberal Party did the wrong thing when it came to not backing the voice. Ended up being where the people are. It's been in the wrong place when it comes to talking about immigration. Instead, that's where the people have been. It's in the wrong place going after that idiot Andrew Giles. Well, guess what? More proof, in the right place. But last week, the damn walls had broken. Remember the great detail we went in last week about the Labor Party inventing the idea that the Liberal Party was going to pull out of the Paris Climate Accord. Now, as the week rolled on, yes, the opposition came out and said, we're not going to lock ourselves into the targets that the Labor Party set that we didn't vote for, and if Australia makes us the government, we wouldn't have to honour. Crazy stuff, right? But goodness me, the political establishment, clutching at their pearls they have been.
But what about the investment opportunity aspect of this? Like the hard reality is if you have this confusion and the companies that are putting the money into different types of energy, like what happens for them in this period?
Create more problems about the level of investment that is going ahead and more confusion, and it's certainly not going to improve prices.
To be really clear, our nation has no hope of hitting net zero by 2050 if we do not have interim targets. And the people of North Sydney are incredibly pragmatic. They understand that.
More about the soon-to-be former MP for North Sydney in a moment or two's time. Now, I won't lie. When I sat here a week ago and I had read the headlines all day, I'd started to think, well, hang on, we know that climate change, a very definite view of that, under the age of 50, there are more voters under the age of 50 than over. How does this work? And then I've got to say, Matt Canavan put me right, just like he did with that Greens person, by the way, put me right by saying, well, hang on, it's just about right or wrong. Don't overcomplicate it. That's what their view is. Well, what about this? The set of stones that it takes for the Labor Party to now come out and say that the Liberal policy of not going renewables exclusively, well, there'll be too much of a cost in that transition. The same cost of transition that they wouldn't own up to in 2019 and they lost an election, that they lied about in 2022, and now Australians are noticing that all of these extra targets, they end up costing you and I to build the relevant infrastructure. Instead, they imagine it's already been built for hundreds of billions of dollars, almost $1 trillion, if you will. But we've already chosen that path, and that's the way that it goes. So Penny Wong today is out and about saying, Peter Dutton will increase your power bills. Yes, seriously. The Labor Party is now arguing that the other guy is going to raise your power bills when they, of course, have seen power bills go up by hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. The too little too late that they offer in the budget was about $300 or $25 a month as a credit only for 12 months while the cost of transition plays on. Yep, that's what Penny Wong's trying to get people to believe today. This won't float, this won't fly, but here we go.
Mr Dutton's walking away from climate action again is a recipe for higher energy bills in Australia, and I'll come back to that. It is also him yet again abandoning the field in the Pacific. I still get when I move around the Pacific, people remembering him joking about climate change by talking about water lapping at the door of Pacific nations. People still remember that.
Yeah, but when the Chinese Premier is in town, as he is right now, starting in Adelaide, making his way towards Canberra, you reckon Australia's going to mention at all that, as we've shown to you how many times, Australia 1% of the world's problem, China 30% of the world's problem, meaning those Pacific Island nations are not actually being swamped by Australia, they are being swamped by the climate outputs of China, among other nations that will continue to pollute however much they want till 2030. Now, again, all of this is about appealing to, apparently, everyone under the age of 50 who doesn't believe in God but does believe in Gaia, who believe that we must ruin the earth with solar panels and wind farms to save the atmosphere. We're having a debate, as we had all last week, about what percent of 1% of the world's climate emissions. Oh no, but what about per capita? Yeah, that's not how they're measured. It's not measured off population, it's measured off how much is up there. In Australia, 1, China, 30 times. For his part, Peter Dutton says that while the destination remains the same, net zero 2050, now the Labor Party thinks they can do it with windmills, Peter Dutton says we can do it with nuclear power. Both will cost money to build, but one will ultimately be a more reliable source of energy. And this entire week that has gone, and we went in chapter and verse and we showed you how it was a couple of lines in an interview in the Australian newspaper last week that got whipped up into the Paris stuff, which was apparently a giant distraction from the government, who for months has been on the back foot. And they thought that last week we were on the front foot and we're kicking backside. But Peter Dutton has nailed the fundamental issue that has constantly been in polling in and around climate change in Australia since it became a mainstream political issue in 2007, 10, 13, 16, 19 and 22 elections, is that Australians would like some action on climate change, but we're not willing to pay for it, and we're currently paying for it.
And we're fully signed up to net zero by 2050, but if you think it's a linear progression, they will cripple the economy. So I think we have a look at all of that information, and if there are settings that we need to change, then we would change them if it means helping families with the cost of living crisis that Labor has created.
So all week, hair on fire, the media bubble inside the bubble clutching its pearls, the media trying to give cover to the Prime Minister, who is constantly failing on his central promise of doing anything about cost of living. And finally, Peter Dutton gave them the opportunity to get into what they were going to.